I want to take a step back. You've advertised yourself as a play-by-play announcer. I don't watch a lot of sports. I somewhat know what that is, but I'm sure there's folks in our audience that may or may not. Could you talk about
Sure.
that?
A play-by-play announcer basically sets the tone to the broadcast. And what people don't know is that there's a lot of preparation that goes into being a play-by-play announcer. Let's just say, for example, coming up, football season is coming up. So I spent all day today, for example, going through each team in the conference that I'm going to be doing coming up, and literally writing down their home games, when they are, what the schedule is going to be for ESPN. And so my point being, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. Who the players are going, who the new players are going to be, who are the coaches. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into the season before you even call a game. And football doesn't start until really the last weekend in August, first week in September. But yet and still, to be the best, to be good at what you do, you have to put in the time and the preparation. And 95 to 99% of my job is preparation. The other 5% or 1% is really just executing on game day, because you've gotten all the main characters in your head and all the backstories. And that's a key too. I'm basically a storyteller as a play-by-play announcer. The play-by-play announcer will read the sponsorship breaks, right? Because the broadcasts just don't happen, on their own. You have to have, in most cases, you have to pay people, right? You have to pay the camera people. You have to pay the director. You have to pay the producer. You have to pay your color broadcaster. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So the sponsors are what provides that opportunity. So as a play-by-play announcer, you make sure that you pay that off by being enthusiastic about reading your sponsorship boards and really selling the product, whatever it is that needs to be sold for that broadcast. Yes, sir.
And is your companion the color announcer?
Well, the color announcer, don't get me wrong, they're very important too, and it's nice to have a good color partner to be able to elaborate on the plays, on what's actually going on. And there is a difference between doing, for example, radio play-by-play and television play-by-play and radio color commentary and television commentary. Here's an example. If I'm doing a radio broadcast, I have to be a lot more descriptive than I would if I was doing a television broadcast. So, for example, if I'm doing a radio broadcast of a basketball game or a football game, I will describe it's 24 degrees here here at the field. The wind is blowing slightly left to right, and it's blowing just a bit where I can feel the top of my hairs. You follow what I'm saying? So you have to be more descriptive than you would if it was a television broadcast, where obviously people can see what's going on, and you more or less want to provide the basics. Who has the ball? What's the situation? What the score is? How many points a particular player may have at that particular time. So there's a big difference, between doing radio and play-by-play. And as a color announcer, really that's your writing partner. And the color announcer's job is to weave in and out, as I call the play-by-play, play ends, color commentary person comes in, observes what he sees, he gets out, and I come back in. So it's like a little dance, if you will, during the broadcast. Yes.
I'm glad you put that, because I'm a jazz musician, and there's definitely there's a protocol in jazz that if you don't play jazz, you may not really know what's going on. How people know when to come in, when to come out, when to pull back. What is the protocol for, how do you all, of course, when you watch you guys, people, like, especially if it's a marvelous, there's 5 or 6 people sitting at a table, nobody ever interrupts anybody else. It's just like bang, bang, zing. How do you know how to do that?
Man, this is how you know. Again, it's kind of like a ballet. It's kind of like a dance. So if I'm calling a play, Smith has the ball, the right corner of the basketball court. They swing the basketball around. Here's Johnson. Johnson with a 15-footer. Good. Terrence Johnson scores its 13th point of the game. other game. So the way I say that allows my color partner to come in.
Oh.
Well, Duane, Duane, he got the ball in the corner and he wasted no time putting the basketball up. He could have shot it right from there, but decided to take one dribble to his right and shoot the basketball. All right, back to the action. 24-21 the score, 9:51 to go in the first period. Duane Walker along with Adam Cole live from the arena.
And I love how you actually can just make this stuff up. Like you can watch an imaginary game and narrate it. That's pretty remarkable, actually.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you something. If you have that skill set where you can imagine, right, and put plays to pen and plays to your imagination. I once interviewed for EA Sports, and a lot of people might know that. I don't know if I know you're not necessarily a big football fan, but there was a legendary coach named John Madden.
Oh, sure. I know who that is.
You've heard of John Madden? Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
So Madden has some games, some like the video games. It's called the Madden games. So I actually had a couple of interviews to serve as a writer for those actual games, for the video games. So that was a cool experience going through that process. So what's been fascinating about my career, what I really enjoy, I enjoy the chase. The chase of being the best and the chase of being where I want to be. Like, for example, my ultimate goal is to be a play-by-play announcer for the National Football League. This time last year, as a matter of fact, I had an opportunity to interview, had two interviews. I was in the finalist group for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had a play-by-play position open up. And although I didn't get the job, I know that I'm very, very close to getting there. And that's so fun, too, the part of the chase. So I know that I have the talent to do it. And now that I'm just waiting for the opportunity, but being ready for that opportunity when it comes. And shouts out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They wrote me. They wrote, how you receive that letter. Hey, we're sorry, da 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 da. But they're very, very complimentary in their comments and letting me know that I was a finalist. It was between me and another person. Ironically, the person that got the position attended the school where my daughter attends right here or attended here in Washington, a school called Washington University in St. Louis. So if you were to look it up, the Pittsburgh Steelers play-by-play radio guy is an alumni of Washington University here in St. Louis, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, that is. So
but
go ahead.
But back to what I was saying, just being a part of the chase is just as exciting in pursuing those dreams. And although I haven't attained my ultimate dream, there's been so many other amazing experiences I've had along the way that really just fulfills my heart. You know what I'm saying? So I've been thoroughly blessed.
I want to talk about the hierarchy of sportscasters in a minute, but before I do, I guess I'm dying to ask if you think certain kinds of people gravitate to this job. What kinds of people tend to be sportscasters?
Probably people that like to talk a lot.
Yeah, that's an easy one. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily extroverted, right?
Well, that's true. That's absolutely true, because you have some people that can go on a stage, for example, and be completely comfortable while they're on the stage, but off the stage, they're like introverts, don't really talk to a whole lot of people, and you can have that the opposite way too, right? Where, and I know you're an expert in this, right? Getting people over their fears of stage fright, correct? That's one of the things that you do, right? As a professional. So it really just depends. It really just depends on the person. But what I find in common, people are going to have a love for that particular sport, and they're going to also have word for the spoken word, because you obviously can't use the same words all the time. So you're going to have to learn how to, mix up your words and use different words to describe the action that's going on. And you really have a millisecond to decide what words you're going to use during the course of a broadcast, because the game is fluid, right? The game constantly goes along, so it's really, really fluid. And you, as the play-by-play announcer, well, you have to come up with something to say, right? In a fluid, smooth, authoritative tone that really connects with the audience. So that's where the tricky part comes in. So it's not to be honest, doing play-by-play is nowhere near as easy as it might seem.
Is there are there subcultures in sportscasting? Do all the color people just hang out with each other, or is it what's the culture, inside sportscasting?
Sure. Well, you know, well, it all depends on the situation. Number one, if you're working for a team, let's just say you're a team sports broadcaster, team play-by-play announcer, you may have a color announcer that you work with literally all season long, right? So you get an opportunity to know about your broadcast partner, know what his quirks are, know what his strengths are, and you might even actually have a relationship outside of the broadcast, right? Where you might hang out, go to dinner together. Me, whoever I'm working with, I try to have an open line of communication because at the end of the day, we're trying to deliver the best possible broadcast, and that comes with preparation. So as a broadcaster, I share my notes, what I've come up with. Hey, this might be something that one of the topics we might want to talk about during the broadcast. Hey, what storylines do you have? Is there anything that you want me to feed to you, or is there anything that you want to highlight? So again, it's really like a dance, and both you and the color person, you want to be kind of in sync and be on the same page. So I feel the more you extend that olive branch, try to get to know your broadcast partner, it will come across on the broadcast, and it'll just make everything nice, smooth, and it makes for a quality broadcast. So that's what if you're with a team. Now, if you're the freelancer, you might connect with a broadcast partner that you've never worked with before. So I guess in your world as a jazz musician, let's just say you went to an open jam, right? And you might not ever have worked with any of the other artists, right? But you kind of just decide what key you're going to go in, right? I forgive my ignorance. I'm not a jazz
No, that's
musician.
okay. Probably the best analogy is as an accompanist, as a pianist, as an accompanist, not necessarily jazz, but anyone I'm playing with.
Right.
There may be a singer that I work with all the time and we know exactly what we're doing and we perfect it. Or I may sit down at the piano and I may have never met you before and we have 10 minutes to rehearse this song that we're going to do. Okay. Do you want me to speed it up here? Do you want me to slow it down here? It sounds a lot like that.
Oh, absolutely. So there's actually a lot of similarities to it. And, getting back to the root of the story, we're talking about having this love for sports, participating in sports, playing in football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, all of these sports I've had an opportunity to play, so I can speak from a player standpoint, right? I can also speak from a coach's standpoint because I've coached in basketball, I've coached baseball. So in those respective sports, I can speak as a player, a coach, and I can also speak as a parent because I've been a parent of a college athlete, and right now a swim athlete. My son Jacob is a swimmer, and if everything goes well, he'll be participating in the 2028 or the 2032 Olympic Games, so the Paralympic Games. So I'm really excited about that. So, but it's amazing the lessons that you learn playing a sport. For example, discipline, never give up attitude, being on time. A lot of these characteristics translate into the real world, whether you're a sports broadcaster, whether you're a pianist, whether, it teaches you the art of practicing to make perfect. It teaches you always trying to get better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of stories that could come from sports. Working hand in hand with a teammate, recognizing that you cannot do everything on your own. If you're the quarterback, you can't throw the football to yourself, right? You need some help, right? So it teaches the team concept, and it brings so many other ethnicities together where you all have to work as a team for one common goal. And that's one of the things in sports that you can actually translate to real life. So I think the world of sports, like I said, I've been thoroughly blessed. I thought I was going to say that a bunch, but I've had a tremendous ride.
Nice. Well, now, let's get back to the hierarchy of sportscasting.
Sure.
Obviously, I'm not clear as to whether, what is the hierarchy? I mean, is it all about how much you get paid or is it about prestige? Is there an arc to a sportscaster's life where they, like an actor, where they may have 10 years where they're doing all these movies and then they fade into obscurity? What's the life of a sportscaster?
Well, I think the life of the sportscaster is one similar to an actor from the standpoint that even as an actor, you don't necessarily have to fade away because I mean, obviously, the older you get, you have less years, which is obvious. But in sportscasting, I mean, you can literally have a 50, 60, or even 70-year run in the business. I've been lucky to be in this business over 40 years. And like I said, I plan on going for another 25 or 30 if the Lord allows me to do that, and I can keep my average looks in my
Oh,
if I can keep my average looks in, I look a little low today because I got that gray on, but under normal circumstances, I make sure that I'm cleanly shaven, and I do try to, and this may sound vain, but I try to look as young as possible so that I can sustain my longevity in this television business.
yeah. And I notice, of course, you've been in this business a long time, and yet you are still trying for that NFL job, the professional job. So is that definitely a level up? I mean, is that like a dream for most sportscasters?
Well, that's just something that I'd like to do for me. But all of the other things I've had an opportunity to do, like I said, working at CNN, Headline Sports, doing that for 5 years, going from there, being a talk show host in the Atlanta market, doing overnights at 92.9 The Game. That was fantastic. Sports Wrap with Duane Walker. So again, I've had a number of opportunities, and I still do today. Like, for example, coming up this fall, I'll be announcing, doing play-by-play for ESPN, doing football and basketball. And then I'll do, hockey TV, where I'll have a chance to do some collegiate hockey. So that's what I enjoy doing, and it's really just rinse and repeat. It's really rinse and repeat, all during the while still having my eye out for whatever opportunities might come up at the NFL level. So I'm in contact with different teams and different networks to try to get in. Now, I must, in all transparency, when I got out of college, I did work with the Buffalo Bills as their press box play-by-play announcer during the early 90s, during the years when we went to 4 straight Super Bowls. So I was a part of that historic run. So I did have an opportunity to broadcast all those games. And again, being a part of a winner, they didn't win a Super Bowl. However, they were AFC champions for 4 consecutive years. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm really accustomed to being a part of like championships, like a lot of festive occasions. And again, like I said, been tremendously blessed and grateful. Yeah.
And I noticed that when I watched your reels, there is no difference in your enthusiasm.
Wait a minute, you watched that?
Of course. I watched your reels. Of course, I watched your reels. And there's no difference in the enthusiasm. High school game, pro game, it doesn't matter. It sounds the same. Is that something you find is easy for you because you love it, or is that something you actually have to work at, making sure you're that enthusiastic?
Absolutely. It is because I love it. No matter if I'm doing a little league game, a high school game, a collegiate game, a professional game, I'm going to treat it the same. I'm going to put in the same amount of research. I'm going to research all the players, the key figures, the coaches, know the backstories, the storylines, so that during a broadcast, any situation that comes up, I could be ready for it. You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
Knowing who the parents might be, knowing if maybe one of the parents played at the professional level, at the collegiate level, knowing what knowing what some of the players, who their favorite players are, who their idols, what the players like doing in their pastime other than sports. So as many stories that you can come up with, the better. And get this, 95% of the research I do, I will never, ever use in that particular season. However, I do retain my notes and records because a lot of these leagues I do cover on an annual basis. So I can actually tap back and use the information perhaps later in the season or in another season entirely. So it's good to do good research and have that on standby whenever you can pull it out. And I just think that enhances your reputation as a broadcaster. Because keep this in mind, Adam, what you do that is recorded will live in perpetuity. So Adam, you as a jazz guy, right? You as a jazz guy, you've conducted recordings, right? And those live somewhere. Some of them are out in the atmosphere. Some of them are online. I know you're a YouTuber, right? So somewhere, somehow, some people may have downloaded your stuff, right? So it's going to be there in perpetuity. They might pull this up in 2082. Oh, I'm listening to Adam Cole. You follow what I'm saying? Which is, I mean, it's kind of cool to think about. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But my point being, your work is going to live in perpetuity, and you want it to always be beyond reproach and be quality. You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Now, it's not going to always be perfect. However, you strive for perfection.